Yesterday, we talked about a certain dangerous wooded area, but I think Charles just told us exactly how he plans to cut down Robbery Forest. So grab your axes and throw on your plaid flannels. It's chopping time, ladies and gentlemen. Ready? Let's go. Yesterday, we covered a $31 million Ethereum DeFi hack and likened that ecosystem to a fairy tale forest where the prince goes to get stabbed to death and have all of his jewels stolen. Unbelievably, reports of an even bigger hack have surfaced since yesterday, and Charles dropped a video on exactly how we can finally cut down Robbery Forest. Apparently, losing 31 million wasn't enough. That wasn't good enough. That was underachieving. Apparently, we also had to see Badger DAO protocol lose 120 million just to not even to cap off the week. We're not even done with the week, but just to add to the week. You don't want to undershoot things. You want to achieve as much as possible. And for the existing DeFi platforms, 31 million just wasn't enough. Just in the nick of time, Charles dropped this video that is about exactly how Cardano is going to become the lumberjack with the sharpest axe, who finally chops down the crypto robbery forest. He covers a lot of different things here, but he started out with certification. He said, hey, look, certification, it's a spectrum from things like auditing to things like verification against a formal specification. But what we're shooting for right now in Cardano is to have 4 levels of certification, from uncertified to a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. They're going to do a micro summit workshop to hopefully write candidate specifications for level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1, the very first level of those 3 is pretty easy. It's just uncertified. They didn't do anything. This micro summit is going to involve people behind the dApps, people on the certification side, people on the formal method side, and people on the security auditing side. They've already thought about this a bit with runtime verification in the Alpha Frontier program. Cuvic has also already created some automated tooling for level 1. Certic also has some ETH tooling that would be nice to port over to the Cardano side. And we've talked about a few of these entities in the past, but we didn't know exactly what this was going to look like. And Charles kind of gave us a glimpse of what they're shooting for and how they're going to do it with this micro summit. This is all going to visually manifest itself in the dApp store. The dApp store will still be permissionless. Anybody will be able to get a dApp into the dApp store. But if you're an uncertified dApp, you're going to end up in kind of an open no man's land. Whereas all the other dApps, including all the Plutus dApps that take advantage of everything Cardano has to offer, and the Ethereum virtual machine dApps that run on the AVM but are just better, faster, and cheaper on Cardano, all of these dApps that have any level of certification are going to reflect that in the dApp store. And don't forget, Mamba will come out next year. So we'll see all of these Ethereum virtual machine dApps being able to run on Cardano. If you ask me, that's going to hurt the robbery forest. Cardano, not only do we have a completely different way to construct and run dApps, Cardano will also run Ethereum dApps better than Ethereum can run Ethereum dApps. And if you've used a dApp in Ethereum anytime in the last couple of years and paid those gas fees, it's pretty hard to not be able to imagine those dApps running better anywhere else. So Charles mentioned the University of Wyoming and creating an endowment similar to the one he funded at Carnegie Mellon. You probably already know the one at Carnegie Mellon is non-crypto related. It's about combining computer science and mathematics to make mathematical proofs more comprehensible to the academic community, something like that. I'm neither a mathematician nor a computer scientist, so I'll take Charles's word for it. But he's going to create an institute at the University of Wyoming for both accreditation and certification and endow it. That means he's given him a bunch of money to make it happen. That means both the standards for the dApps and the standards for the people doing the certifying of the dApps, so both accreditation and certification, will be done by this institute at the University of Wyoming. We've heard about this in the past. Again, we kind of knew that they were going for some kind of a dApp certification institute, at the University of Wyoming. we didn't know exactly what it was going to do. It turns out it's accreditation and certification. On the subject of dApps turning on Cardano, Charles mentioned that he gets a lot of questions from people. People hit him up on Twitter and ask him when blank dApp is going to go live. And he's trying to remind everybody he has no idea. He just builds the infrastructure. IOHK builds Cardano infrastructure. And even some of these dApps he's working with, like I think we all know that IOHK has been trying to help SundaeSwap. Even some of these dApps that they're working with don't tell them exactly when they're going to hit mainnet. And I think it's because a lot of these dApps don't know exactly when they're going to hit mainnet. Obviously, if you're being smart and you're going live on testnet, like SundaeSwap is on Sunday, there are a lot of things you got to figure out. You want to actually use the results of your experimentations on testnet or your time on testnet. You want to use that feedback and figure out ways to improve your product. And depending on what feedback you get, that might determine exactly how long it takes to get ready for mainnet. I think of things like, how will SundaeSwap handle identity? That's a question that pops into my head. But Charles did say lots of projects will be turning on between now and the end of Q1. And he said we will have dexes by Christmas. And he'd already, when he said that, when he said we will have dexes, he said it in the plural, if I remember correctly. He had already sort of acknowledged that we have a dex that's running right now on mainnet, that being Muesli Swap, which we've covered on this channel. This next part was interesting. Charles said IOHK is hiring 7 marketing people to work for Tim Harrison just on the community and dApp ecosystem, with an emphasis on short form media. He mentioned, hey, I think we're pretty good at doing things like podcasts and these AMAs, all this long form stuff. But maybe what we're not good at is doing the short form stuff like Instagram and TikTok. And that's what this team will be doing. Charles also addressed something that is sort of a component of my own personal Cardano thesis. He said that he gets asked a lot how Cardano is going to get high TVL platforms to come over from Ethereum. These are platforms that are able to lock a lot of value. So TVL is total value locked. So these are all the big famous Ethereum DeFi platforms, and this sort of belies, maybe an assumption on the part of people asking this question that that's the path to success for Cardano. And I think organic growth of our own projects is probably more likely. It's probably more likely that that's going to be a big driver of growth for Cardano. Maybe not. Maybe all these projects will come flooding over, but it seems like it's hard for people to embrace change and accept transitions like this. So I think it might take a while for those projects. Meanwhile, we've got a bunch of really good projects of our own, homegrown Cardano projects that are going to be organically growing and launching on Cardano. But Charles pointed out something else on this same topic. He thinks that a lot of those yield producing platforms will fall under regulation. Again, this is part of my own personal Cardano thesis. He says this will create a big demand for a different way to do DeFi. This will involve compliance with business traffic of those platforms. So, compliance with things like anti money laundering regulations, which often require KYC of customers, things like that. And in those types of places, a tall prism gives Cardano a huge leg up. A lot of these platforms will also need governance because it's obvious that DAOifying themselves is a goal of a lot of these platforms to avoid regulation. They know that if they're decentralized, they're less likely to face heavy regulation or regulation that might regulate them out of existence. So Charles thinks there's going to be a big push for a lot of these platforms to become DAOs, completely decentralized. They can say, hey, the founders, the people who created the code behind this platform, they're not the ones running the platform. This platform is run by the community. It's completely decentralized. Please don't regulate us. And here again, Cardano has Catalyst, which all the Cardano dApps can avail themselves of as native assets. We've talked about this many times on the channel. It's not clear that an ecosystem like Ethereum has a clear path to do the same thing. I mean, you can certainly create DAOs on Ethereum, and they certainly do exist, but there's not this super straightforward off-the-shelf program like Catalyst that's already in the works. Like Voltaire's been a thing for Voltaire's always been a thing, and this is one of the reasons. Cardano also has certification, as we've talked about throughout this channel, Certification will be very desirable for the consumer protection that will be implied by regulation. When you watch congressional hearings and they talk about regulating crypto, they always have to hang it on something. There's always some excuse why they have to regulate crypto. Certainly, it's not to protect the traditional finance institutions, not to protect Wall Street. They have to hang it on something. And the thing they often hang on is consumer protection. This is how our securities regulation is justified, how all of our other financial regulation is justified. It's, there's always that piece. There's always the piece lurking in the corner that's always like preventing terrorist financing, preventing money laundering by, narcotics traffickers. That's always there too. But the really big piece they always use to drive home how much they need to regulate financial, like innovative financial players like crypto, it's always the consumer protection piece. And so Cardano having these pretty in-depth plans for certification, I think that's going to go a long way for the consumer protection piece. So Charles is basically pointing out these three different areas, sort of a tall prism for the business traffic compliance, catalyst for the DAOification and governance and decentralization, and finally certification for the consumer protection pieces. I agree with him. I think Cardano is going to present one of the most compelling landscapes for doing the DeFi thing in an alternative way that has the best chance of not getting regulated out of existence. And as we've also covered many times on this channel, the way Cardano is constructed and the way dApps and Cardano will be constructed, hopefully we won't create a robbery forest. We will have hacks. I think everybody agrees. The temptation is too strong. Crypto platforms, DeFi platforms are too big a target, and in any permissionless system, anybody can throw something up there. So people are going to create DeFi platforms in Cardano. And there will be a lot of uncertified ones that don't carry that level 1, 2, or 3. And there will be hacks of those platforms, but hopefully it'll be much more limited than what we've seen in Ethereum. Maybe a robbery tree here and there that everybody should know to stay away from. Those will get hacked, but hopefully it's much more limited than the robbery forest we currently see. I think this is very promising. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.